thank you everyone for joining us here today. We are going to be talking about Walmart U.S. and Canada comparison. So this is something that we get a lot of questions about from suppliers who are in both. And so we wanted to do just an overview of what the difference is and talk through some of the different programs that Walmart has for both countries. So you have myself, I'm the VP of Marketing, Melody, over here at SupplyPike. I'm going to be the one who's pitching questions to Stacy. So whatever questions you have, sending them Stacy's way. She's our VP of Retail Insights over here at SupplyPike. She has over a decade's worth of experience in the supplier world, has worked on, I feel like, every side of the supplier world. So we're very lucky to have her here today. She's going to be leading us through the content. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to be just doing a broad comparison overview of the two different kind of programs for both countries. We're going to be talking through AP deductions comparison, what's different there, what's different for AR compliance fines, what supply chain differences and how you can address issues for each of the different countries. And then we're going to reserve 10 minutes at the end for general questions and discussion. I will be taking questions throughout and again pitching them to Stacy, but we always like to reserve a little bit of time in case it takes a little bit for us to get through the content. At the end of it, if you've gone through all of this content and you want to learn more about us, we do have a sneak peek of Deductions Navigator, which is our application that helps suppliers automate the deduction management that they might be experiencing. So if you guys want to stay on with us just an extra 5 minutes and learn more about SupplyPike, we'd love to show you how we can help automate your dispute process, which is fun. All right, some FAQs. So will we get a copy of the slide deck? Yes, you will. You'll get both a copy of the slide deck and the recording in your inbox in 3 to 4 business days. If you don't see that in your inbox, please just feel free to email me. My email will be at the end of this presentation. Sometimes there's just, weird spam filters that might get it caught. So just let me know and then I can send that your way. What's the best way to ask a question? So down at the bottom, you're going to see 2 little bubbles and it will say Q&A. If you hit that and type in your questions, that just makes it a lot easier for me in order to manage the volume of questions that are coming in and make sure that we answer everything. However, there is also going to be a single little button that says chat. That is a great tool for you guys to use in order to engage with each other, engage with us. We love to see people throwing stuff in the chat, so please use that. I will also be sending, anytime a resource is mentioned, I will also be sending it in the chat. So keep an eye out for that. Sometimes it can get really active there in the chat. So keep an eye out. And yeah, I think that's it for the FAQs. All right, hand this off to you, Stacy.
Sweet. Thank you, Melody. So yeah, if, we like to kind of introduce ourselves at the start of every webinar in case this is the first time you guys are joining us here at SupplyPike. So really quickly, we are SupplyPike. We're a Northwest Arkansas based software company. And what we do is we work with our supplier partners to really help manage and reduce their revenue loss by helping to detect and kind of resolve any retailer compliance issues. So we've got kind of a host of different tools that we utilize. Deductions Navigator really helps to tackle AP related deductions. We also have a compliance tool that can help you kind of address any OTIF fines. We will be launching a SQEP fines tool soon, so we're really excited about that. And we service suppliers that work with Walmart and Sam's Club, Target, Kroger, and Amazon. So if you guys have any pain points with any of those retailers, we would love to be able to talk to you about that and also provide any resources if we can. So today we work with about 400 different companies representing over $25 billion in retail impact across pretty much every product category across the box. So gen merch, apparel, consumables, grocery, we kind of do it all, which is really fun. And you guys can kind of see kind of across the bottom of our screen, we have a list of all of the different logos, some of whom we work with, or all of whom we work with. I say this every, presentation, we are so proud to consider them part of the SupplyPike family, and hopefully we'll be able to add you guys to our SupplyPike family if you're not currently working with us already. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started on a quick overview of the differences between Walmart Canada and Walmart US. So really quickly, just to make sure we're level setting and kind of setting up the stage for today's conversation, we're going to be covering content specifically for suppliers that are shipping to DCs in Walmart US and Walmart Canada, and this will cover content for both collect and prepaid suppliers. So, we only ever have an hour with you guys, so we try to not get too far in the weeds because you guys know there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of content we could create, but for simplicity's sake, to make sure we can kind of get through everything in time, we're not going to be covering Walmart.com or DSP suppliers. However, if that is something that's interesting to you guys, please definitely let us know, either in the chat or send us a note later on, and we'll be happy to make sure that we are developing content for Walmart.com and DSP, again, if that is something that is interesting for you guys. So again, just kind of setting up the stage, in case you are a newer supplier to Walmart, just so you are aware, Walmart considers obviously Walmart US as Walmart US, and pretty much every other subsidiary outside of the US, Walmart considers Walmart International. And how that works when it comes to Retail Link, which is Walmart's kind of, data repository database tool, is you probably may require a new Retail Link setup for your Walmart Canada business. So what's really common, what happens a lot, is we have folks that will start in Walmart US and then expand into Walmart Canada. And when that happens, sometimes you may require a new Retail Link setup. So what we've seen work for other suppliers, in case you guys don't already have this set up today, is that you would set up your Canada Retail Link account with a different email and admin to start. And then from there, you'll add your Canada vendor number to your US admin account after you get that vendor number. And then you can delete the Canada admin account that you used for setup. And then what happens at that point is you'll be able to kind of link both of those businesses under one login with Retail Link, which is really nice. So let me see, there we go. So this is what that looks like if any of you guys are kind of following along at home. Essentially, when you log into your Retail Link, you'll see a flag here in the top right corner. And if you click on that flag, essentially, you'll see kind of all of the different options that you have available. So it'll be Canada, US, sometimes Mexico, and so on and so forth. One thing to kind of note, and we kind of called it out here, is to make sure that you're saving any changes in the country setting that you are navigating away from. So Walmart doesn't always auto save things. So when you're flipping between the businesses, you want to make sure that you have all of your work saved so that you're able to kind of come back to it later on. So at a very high level, the kind of key differences between Retail Link when you're in US versus in Canada is in Retail Link Canada, you may not have access to some like for like applications, depending on what you're working on. So a great example of this is OTIF, and we'll show you guys screenshots of this a little bit down in the presentation. But Walmart Canada's OTIF application does not look exactly like Walmart US's OTIF application. So it may not be one-to-one. Another thing to call out is that as far as we can tell, and again, guys, please feel free to sound off in the chat if you guys have found anything different. We've not really been able to find any kind of academy site that is just for Canadian suppliers. So in the US Retail Link, they have that academy kind of in the top navigation. But for Canada, there is not really one that is just for Canada suppliers. Where you can typically find information is kind of when you use the search bar, instead of looking for apps, look for docs, and you should be able to find documentation and articles and things like that for Canadian processes. One thing we did call out is a lot of the times, unfortunately, we have found that documentation and articles specifically for Canada and just really Walmart International in general is not really super up to date, unfortunately. And so, I would really be kind of cognizant anytime you're pulling that out of Retail Link to check when it was last updated. We have found articles like from 2007. And the crazy thing with Walmart is it may still be relevant. It may still be the way they do things, even though it's 15 years ago, or there may be a whole new process that they just don't have documentation for. So just be aware. And obviously your buyer is probably going to be your best resource in terms of kind of the most up-to-date processes. You can also utilize, of course, Retail Link Help Desk, and they should be able to kind of point you in the right direction. So just be aware of that. So kind of for the purposes of today, as Melody mentioned at the top of the call, we really focus in on kind of the revenue management side of things. So again, we can cover lots and lots and lots of content, but for the purposes of our webinar today, we're really going to be focusing in on the deductions, OTIF fines, and SQEP fines portion, because again, that is where most of our suppliers, if they're dealing with any rev loss issues, it's going to be in that kind of realm. So identical processes across the US and Canada. Generally speaking, AP deductions processes and AP deductions apps are going to be the same. So APDP, APIS, accounting scorecard, we'll hop into that a little bit down the road. DSS is also going to be very similar. Now, I will say DSS for Walmart Canada is very limited compared to what you can pull for Walmart US. So the process is still the same. You still have to build the query and kind of pick your columns and do all of that sort of stuff, but you aren't going to have access to just the depth and the richness of information on Walmart Canada side that you have for Walmart US. Shipping documents are also going to be very similar between the US and Canada. So, kind of some of the processes are one for one when you're looking across both countries. Some differences exist between the OTIF process, which we'll talk about later on in the webinar, OTIF apps, which I touched on earlier, as well as Item 360. There are going to be some differences there. And then this I thought was kind of interesting for you guys to know if you don't know already. What does not currently exist for Walmart Canada, which honestly is a good thing, I think, is collect pickup program. So we have a lot of resources around that, but kind of the short story of that is Walmart has started to introduce kind of fees for suppliers that utilize their collect freight program. So right now that the fees don't exist for Walmart Canada suppliers. Nova, now that's an unfortunate one. Nova is actually a pretty powerful application when it comes to PO tracking and cancels and things like that, but unfortunately not currently available for Walmart Canada. And then SQEP, which is relatively new. It's about a year and a half old at this point. The Supplier Quality Excellence Program. So that's around barcode, labeling, ASNs, and things like that. Does not currently exist for Walmart Canada either.
Perfect. Okay, we do have one question, if I
Yeah.
can. So my understanding is that Walmart Canada is no longer shipping collect, only prepaid as of last fall. Have you heard that? We only shipped collect to Walmart Canada, and we are trying to change over to DSV.
That is very interesting. So as far as we know, we do still have some suppliers that are shipping collect for Walmart Canada. Now, they do call it a different program altogether. I think it's called Walmart Freight. So as far as we know, there still are, but again, kind of broken record, as you all know, your mileage may vary depending on who you're talking to at Walmart Canada. So I would love if any of you guys are Walmart Canada suppliers, please feel free to chime in if you've heard that. Again, from what we've seen, collect is still available, but definitely would love to hear others' feedback as well. Great question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, so now we've kind of set the stage for the difference between the overall, processes for deductions, OTIF fines, and SQEP for US and Canada. One thing we really kind of wanted to clarify and delineate a little bit is what all of these different buckets refer to. Again, just so we're all on the same page as we go throughout the presentation today. So very, very quickly, a deduction is essentially when Walmart short pays you on something that you invoice them. So they order 100 cases, you invoice them for 100 cases. They only, they say, oh, we only received 75 cases. And so they don't pay you the full amount. They'll deduct the cost of the 25 cases. And that's how you know you have a deduction. OTIF fine on the other side of that is when Walmart's a compliance fine, and it's when Walmart actually invoices you for the fine. So usually for any sort of AR compliance fines, Walmart is going to have kind of an arbitrary set of rules. So for example, for OTIF, it's 98% on time in full. And if you don't hit that 98% on time in full, then you get invoiced for a 3% cost of goods fine on any of the non-compliant cases. SQEP fines, again, this is more on the Walmart U.S. side, but this is like OTIF's cousin. So OTIF fines is really on the on time and in full piece. SQEP, again, is more on the ASN, barcode, labeling, pallet side. So again, they've got kind of their arbitrary set of rules. And if you don't follow those rules, they will then fine you for being out of compliance. Now, where OTIF fines and SQEP fines can sometimes get, the lines get a little bit blurred with deductions is because with these fines, again, Walmart will invoice you. If you don't pay that invoice, they'll automatically deduct it off of a future check. And so it looks like a deduction. You'll see it come across in APIS as a deduction, but actually, it'll have something like a code 9000, and that's your indication that it was actually an OTIF fine that you didn't pay, and then they automatically deduct it. So won't get too far into OTIF and SQEP today, just because we've got a lot of content on that on SupplierWiki. But just again, wanted to, at a high level, delineate the difference between these three different buckets. So as we all know, essentially complications can occur throughout the entirety of the supply chain when you are selling to Walmart and Walmart U.S. and Walmart Canada. And it can be super confusing when, different processes exist and different rules exist depending on when you're shipping and how you're shipping and which country you're shipping within. So again, we are going to really focus in on the areas where there's overlap between Walmart U.S. and Canada, and again, show you what is the same, show you what is different, and show you what exists in one but not the other, and really dive into that today. So AP deductions comparison, kind of what we talked about earlier. Essentially, again, the deductions process for Walmart, AP deductions Walmart U.S. and Canada processes are very similar. So essentially, you'll get a deduction that comes across through APIS, which is one of the applications in Retail Link. From a supplier's perspective, your job is essentially to check the validity of the claim, pull any proof documentation, be it a shipping document or an invoice or whatever that is, dispute it on APDP, and then essentially wait for the dispute resolution. So Walmart will then review, if they have, if they agree with your dispute and go, oh yeah, we should have paid you for that, they'll pay you back. If they don't agree, they'll either deny it or they'll ask for more information. And then if you get a denial and you want to redispute, you kind of then start from the beginning and figure out, why they denied it, get the proof, and then kind of continue that process. So again, very similar between Walmart U.S. and Walmart Canada. We thought this would be some interesting information for you guys to share. This is what we've seen overall in APDP. So average approval time is about 51 days. So from the time you submit a claim to the time it actually gets approved and reviewed by Walmart is about 51 days. We have seen about a third get approved within 2 days. So APDP does have an auto approval process. So if it's going to be approved, it gets approved within that auto approval process in about 2 days. And then after you've received that approval, it then takes about 7 days to actually get payment. And again, these are kind of averages. So we've seen folks that are lucky and have a lot of stuff clear in 2 days. We also have some teams, I think, we talk regularly with the Walmart teams. We've seen that claims are going back as far as October of last year. So they're still working through a massive backlog, but again, kind of working through that right now. So we have a question for the chat. Just curious, for those of you guys who are doing both Walmart and US and Canada deductions, do you see a difference between the dispute resolutions or approval times? We'd love to hear you guys' feedback if you are seeing any differences there. Okay, cool. So while we wait for people to kind of answer, wanted to really show you the different tools that we have available or that are available for you within Retail Link. Again, this is going to be very, very similar across both US and Canada. So you're going to utilize the accounting scorecard, which is a really great, what we call temperature check for invoices. It helps to measure your invoice accuracy through invoice match and EDI accuracy. Those are really, really helpful when you're having to deal with any type of allowance or pricing discrepancies. This can be a really, really good place for you to kind of do research and check. APIS is where I think for a lot of you guys, probably you spend a lot of your time. This is really where all of the invoice and claims information live. So you can see what you've invoiced Walmart, you can see what they've paid you, you can see any deductions that exist. This is really kind of the primary tool. So if you guys don't have APIS and you have to deal with Walmart finance in any sort of way, I would really recommend making sure that you have access to this particular app. I would also make sure you have access to APDP. So this is the Accounts Payable Dispute Portal. And this is the actual portal that you will utilize to submit any disputes that you have. So in APIS, you'll be able to see, hey, we invoiced Walmart for the 100 cases. They only paid us for the 75. We have proof of delivery that we delivered all 100. So we want to dispute the 25. Then you would go into APDP and dispute that and try and get that money back. So, the accounting scorecard, definitely important, but APIS and APDP, I would consider kind of non-negotiable tools, especially again, if you guys are doing anything in kind of the finance deduction space, you definitely need to have access to those tools. So one thing to note for Walmart Canada, shipping related deductions that are using the Walmart freight program, and I think this kind of ties to that collect question that we were talking about earlier. For right now, if they are shipping related, again, specifically for collect suppliers to Walmart Canada, I like that idea of like 14 caveats to this. Right now, it is disputed utilizing email, which is definitely not great at all. But just so you guys know, in case you weren't already aware, this is the email that you have to use when you want to submit a dispute for any deduction that you've received. And kind of their expectations for that is that you are sending over an invoice copy, the claim copy, which is the deduction notice, the check remittance, so where the deduction was applied, and then of course you're going to need your proof of pickup or copy of signed bill of lading. So anytime you need to fight this, again, for shipping related deductions, for collect, for Walmart Canada, this is going to be the process that you're going to utilize. So something a little bit different, but just wanted to call that out in case you guys weren't already aware. So a couple of tips for you guys is make sure that you are always utilizing and reviewing your Walmart supplier agreements for both US and Canada. Again, this will come in handy anytime you're having to fight allowance charges, pricing charges, and things like that. We called this out because a lot of times teams will have different terms between the US and Canada, different payment terms, different shipping terms, different DAs, and things like that. So you want to make sure that when you're invoicing Walmart US or Walmart Canada, that you are basically following the correct terms depending on which one you're sending product to. So Walmart Canada does have a supplier information manual. As I mentioned, not everything is up to date there. So this was last updated now 12 years ago. But again, I think it's a really good kind of foundational resource to utilize. And then obviously, if you guys have any additional questions, Retail Link Help Desk or your buyer will be good resources for you guys to reach out to. Okay, so moving on to AR compliance fines. So again, friendly refresher, AP deductions are deductions that are taken off of a check, so when you invoice Walmart, they don't pay you in full. AR compliance is when you get fined. So they are actually invoicing you for the fine. And then if you don't pay it, then you actually get that deducted off of a future check. So again, kind of friendly reminder, what we talked about earlier, AP again, and DSS of shipping documents going to basically be identical. The differences that we're going to call out here are really around OTIF, because again, Pickup Program and SQEP, which are Walmart's primary AR compliance programs, they do not currently exist for Walmart Canada. We should be thankful for that. So yeah, so AR fines in Walmart US and Canada, again, as I mentioned, kind of really broken up into OTIF and SQEP. Walmart Canada and Walmart US have separate compliance programs. So we'll kind of cover the differences between the two in a little bit. And again, for SQEP or SQEP, not currently implemented in Walmart Canada, but it has gotten through, there's 4 phases, in case you guys didn't know. And we've already implemented up to phase 3. We have heard that phase 4 should be coming shortly. So just be aware of kind of the differences in those 2 programs. And even if you are a Walmart Canada supplier, I would let's say Walmart Canada only supplier, I would recommend kind of getting to know SQEP, maybe not in depth by any means, but definitely just understanding the overall structure of the program. Because what we have seen in the past is that any program that, Walmart US rolls out eventually will likely get to Sam's Club, Walmart Canada, Walmart Mexico, so on and so forth. So always better to be aware of what's out there than be surprised if they make the announcement and decide to roll that out. So I would definitely be aware of that.
I got a couple of comments from the chat, if now is a good time to share it. So this one's long, so I'm going to try to summarize it, but what they've received is that there's 2 options that are not financially viable for them around Canada's Collect program. So Walmart Canada recognizes the unique times and volatility of the transportation market and appreciates suppliers' continued efforts over the last 2 years to ensure our customers have products available when they need them in store. Due to current inflationary and other cost pressures, Walmart Canada has determined that the supplier Collect transportation terms are no longer commercially viable, and as a result, they will be transitioning away from that program. So going forward, suppliers will have 2 prepaid freight options: 1 prepaid Walmart freight program, Walmart carriers, or 2 prepaid supplier managed.
Interesting. No, that's really, really helpful. And I think it's very interesting that they call option. So prepaid supplier managed, I think it's prepaid in the traditional sense that we all know. Basically, you contract with your carriers and they pick it up and handle it and do all of that for you. Prepaid Walmart freight program with Walmart carriers, that is very interesting because the documentation that we have found has been around the Walmart freight program, which is their version of Collect, but they may have shifted kind of how they define the freight program, which wouldn't surprise me. And that's, I think, great for us to know, Melody, and we could definitely take that back to our teams to do a little bit of research for sure, to kind of understand the difference and what has changed. So thank you so much for sharing that, guys. Again, if you've been to any of our webinars, we always say it takes a village to be a good supplier, and we learn from each other. So we always appreciate the insights that you guys are sharing with us for sure. So that is very interesting.
One other thing that was sent to us was that they actually receive SQEP fines in Canada. And they are PPD with Walmart carriers too.
Okay, so that sounds the prepaid with Walmart carriers. So that sounds like the very first, one of the 2 options that was shared in the chat. As far as SQEP fines in Canada, that's very interesting, and we would very much like to talk more with you if you'd be open to that. As far as we can see, and again, your mileage may vary with Walmart documentation, but Walmart's documentation has stated that SQEP is not live for Canada. Do you know, I'm checking the chat here. Do you know, Jessica, if you wouldn't mind sharing just the category of fines that you've gotten? So just so you guys know, phase 1 for the SQEP program in Walmart US was around ASNs. So basically you need to now send an ASN anytime you ship to their DCs. So I'm just curious if maybe they're starting to roll out phase 1 with Walmart Canada suppliers. Okay, overages, I'm seeing overages, shrink wrap. Okay, so that's beyond phase one. That's in phase 2 and phase 3 stuff. Okay, very interesting. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Jessica, we'd love to chat more with you after this. Again, our documentation that we have found and kind of conversations that we've had have said that it's not live for Walmart Canada, but clearly it is. And so we'd love to be able to chat more and make sure that we can update our information and our articles on our end. Oh, sure, if you can help us. We are launching a SQEP tool. So that is actually something we should be able to help with very soon.
Yeah, and I can actually send a recording of the SQEP tool that we are building, a demo of it, if that would be interesting to people, because we are launching a SQEP tool hopefully by the end of the quarter. So.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for the super awesome feedback and insights so far. Like, this is really, really helpful. As I'm sure everyone on this call probably knows, Walmart Canada is a little bit more of a black box than Walmart US just because of the lack of documentation that's out there. So again, we really, really appreciate the information that you guys share with us so that we can make sure we're updating things on our end. And able to, share it kind of with the greater Walmart Canada supplier base so everyone can learn together. Okay, so kind of going back to the presentation, just wanted to show you guys the differences between the OTIF apps for Walmart US and Walmart Canada. I know we had talked about kind of earlier on that it's not one-to-one. That is pretty obvious here. So with Walmart US, data is more built out. So obviously they've got a little bit more of a built out tool, developed tool, and how you actually go about fighting OTIF charges with Walmart US is primarily through high radius disputes. So we just did a webinar, I think last week, on how you can actually go about fighting OTIF fines. So if you guys are interested in that, you can definitely do that. But essentially, you can start by working with your buyer to try and get a fine waived. And if your buyer is not able or is unwilling to waive that fine, then you can fight the OTIF charges in high radius. This is a new-ish system and process. And why I say new-ish is because they actually rolled it out in January of last year. But Walmart, love them, did not make an official announcement on it. I think they just updated one of their FAQ documents. And of course, we monitor that kind of stuff all the time here at SupplyPike, so we were able to catch it. And so our tools actually allow you to do that dispute in high radius. But yeah, you can go up to 13 months back to fight on time and in full OTIF fines that you think are invalid. So Walmart Canada, obviously, data is not as comprehensive. It's a lot more of a simple tool. From what we've heard, it is case by case when it comes to disputing. And as far as we can tell, and again, guys, please feel free to sound off in the chat, this still has to be done with your buyer. So there's not like a high radius portal or anything like that where you can go and fight the OTIF fines. You really have to do it kind of on a case by case basis. So one other thing that I'll call out is that the rules are also different for Walmart US and Walmart Canada. I did want to point out that we didn't do kind of a side-by-side comparison with Walmart Canada because we didn't want to give kind of outdated information in case it was outdated. We have found kind of like one screenshot floating around in the wild of what the Canada rules are for OTIF, but we've not been able to verify that on our end. And so we didn't want to like throw that in there and then have it be wrong. So again, with Walmart US, a lot of documentation on OTIF, which means that we can make sure that we're sharing that with you guys. If you have any information on Walmart Canada OTIF rules, again, we would love if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us. And again, we'll add that to our resources and our articles and make sure that it's shared with the greater Canada supplier base. From what I understand, I believe, so Walmart US, obviously OTIF rules are 98% on time, 98% in full with a 3% cost of goods sold fine. With Walmart Canada, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the rules are a little bit more lax in that, it's not that 98%, but from what I've seen in that screenshot, again, unverified, is that the fines are intense. So the rules, like the threshold is not as high, But, you know, if you can't hit that threshold, I've seen, I think like 20 to 40% of cost of goods sold, which that's why we were afraid to put it on here in case I was wrong. But if you guys have any insight into whether that sounds like the right range, please let us know. And again, if you guys have any documentation, please feel free to share it with us and we'll make sure we'll include it in kind of the next round of this presentation. Okay, so moving on to kind of talking about the differences in packaging. You know, one thing to keep in mind is that Walmart U.S. and Walmart Canada have different packaging standards. So easy example is if you are shipping to Walmart Canada, you have to put French on your packaging. So that's one of the expectations that's there. So we've shared this resource for you guys. You know, if you've been doing this for a while, you've probably seen this before. But if you're newer to Walmart in general, the secondary packaging supply chain standards is a very, very dense document. I think it's like 200 to 300 pages, but essentially it's the most comprehensive document that they have on what their packaging standards are. It covers everything from barcodes, labeling, shrink wrap requirements, even kind of the expectations for your pallets, your what type of corrugated boxes you have to use, language requirements, all of that good stuff. So it's light bedtime reading. I like to joke, but I really, really would recommend checking out this guide if you haven't already. So another thing that I see people are talking 20% of cost of goods, and then if recurrence 40%. Okay, so the screenshot, the magical screenshot seems like it's pretty accurate then, because that's what we had seen was 20 to 40%. So thank you guys again for sharing this, and we'll make sure that we include it in the future iteration of that. So again, with Walmart U.S., you know, 3% cost of goods with a very high threshold. With Walmart Canada, again, I believe is a lower threshold, but as folks in the chat have called out, 20% for your first kind of offense, and then 40% if it happens again. So scary stuff for Walmart Canada for sure. Yeah, so one other thing that we wanted to call out as kind of a difference for you guys is RFID requirements in Walmart. So Walmart is beginning to roll out RFID requirements for specific departments in the US. So for example, it's already been rolled out with apparel, I think completely. I think they announced that home and electronics would be next and are kind of in that process right now. Eventually, I'm sure they would probably like to get it to the entire gen merch and apparel categories. So as far as we can tell, Walmart International is out of scope. So Walmart Canada is not requiring RFID, but for Walmart US, it is required. And you guys can see kind of the different departments that require RFID as of today. So I would definitely check that out. Walmart US actually has a pretty good document on Academy around RFID requirements. So I would definitely recommend checking that out in case you guys haven't already. And of course, if you guys have any questions along the way as it pertains to that, definitely let us know and we'll be happy to share that information with you. Okay, so, you know, other kind of things we want to call out, packing slips and GLN in Walmart. So Walmart US and Walmart Canada POs, they have a standard requirement for packing slips and GLNs, which is, you know, every store in DC has a GLN. Packing slips are required for LTL shipments and FTL shipments to e-commerce fulfillment centers and grocery DCs. They are not required for full truckloads to RDCs and FDCs. And also just to let you guys know, I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms at you all at once. And if you're newer to Walmart, Walmart jargon it's a whole beast on its own. But we will actually be releasing, I think, a resource soon, kind of delineating all of the different item types, PO types, and even DC types. Melody, do we have any idea on when that's going to be released by chance?
Our current plan is around the beginning of March, so you should be seeing that relatively soon.
Sweet. Perfect. So, awesome. When you guys get this presentation, and if you, want to rewatch the recording of it, you can definitely use that kind of cheat sheet next to you as kind of an understanding of like, what are all these letters and why is there so much alphabet soup when you have to deal with Walmart? But yeah, this is kind of important for you to know, again, if you're newer to Walmart, what their expectations are around the packing slips and GLN. So I won't go kind of too far into the weeds for this, but just so you guys are aware, for their packing slips, this is this type of standard information that they are looking for. And this is also going to be included in this secondary packaging supply chain standards guide. So we're calling out kind of the highlights for you guys here to make sure that you're just paying attention to them. But obviously, if you, again, are bored and would like to read a 300-page document, you can find pretty much all of the information around packaging that you need in this particular resource. Okay, so just so you guys know, for GLN at Walmart contact information, all ship to addresses for the US and Canada PO shipments to Walmart DCs are the same, and they're going to be based on PO type. So these must be used on all BOLs and shipping labels. And then just so you guys know too, if you need it, we also have a full list of Walmart's DCs and stores, as well as their associated GLN numbers. So if that is a resource that would be helpful to you guys as you are shipping these out and need those numbers, definitely let us know. We would be happy to share that with you for free. So just FYI there. Okay, so I think we're kind of transitioning to the last little bit of our presentation today, and really wanted to get to the bottom of addressing supply chain issues, because obviously, knowing the differences is great, and it's really important from a tactical standpoint on how you're going to address OTIF and deductions and things like that. But we always like to try and zoom out a little bit to make sure that we're addressing the bigger picture as well. It's really important, you want to get paid, that's table stakes, but it's really important to also think about how you can continue to get better. So you are not getting as many deductions or as many OTIF fines, and in the US, and apparently Canada, as many SQUIP fines as well. So we're going to kind of talk through a couple of the high level ones. Again, we've got a lot of content around this, so keeping it relatively high level today. But essentially, when we look at OTIF, for example, because that's really kind of the bastion when it comes to, OTIF or supply chain issues, you can be fined for, really being, if you are not on time as a prepaid supplier, if you are not ready as a collect supplier, and if you're not shipping in full for kind of both, whether you're prepaid or collect. So one thing we like to point out is that there is a difference to being on time, depending on whether you're a prepaid supplier or a collect supplier. So as a friendly reminder, if you are a prepaid supplier, what that means is that you are providing the transportation. And really what that means is that you own the product until it gets handed off and signed with a POD at the Walmart DC. So essentially, if you think about that chain of ownership, what that means is that you or the carrier are going to be responsible for scheduling the delivery appointment with the DC, and you are also going to be responsible to make sure that the cases arrive within the MABD window at the DC. So every PO that you get, depending on if you're LTL, FTL, live unload, drop trailer, whichever department it's in, that's going to determine an MABD or must arrive by date window, and you need to make sure as a prepaid supplier that you are delivering within that window. So expectations for prepaid suppliers, you're scheduling the delivery appointment within the window and you are delivering within the window. So really important to know what the window is depending on your PO type. And again, we've got resources on that if that would be helpful for you guys. And then on the other side is for collect suppliers. So this is when Walmart provides the transportation. So in this case, Walmart takes ownership when they pick it up from your warehouse or your facility. Basically, there's a signed bill of lading, and that is when the ownership gets transferred and the liability gets transferred to Walmart's side. So as a collect supplier, your expectations are that you are going to be essentially confirming and routing the order by 4 p.m. Central Time the day after the PO is sent. So I like to call this out a lot because a lot of teams, number one, either think that there's a 24-hour time period to do that, which is not true. It's you have until 4 p.m. Central Time. And the other thing I like to call out is that Walmart does not take weekends or holidays into effect. So if you are receiving orders on Friday, let's say 4 p.m. on a Friday, the expectation is that you are routing at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So if you know that your office is going to be closed on Saturday and you guys aren't working, you can actually work with Walmart to adjust your what they call review day. And then they can make sure that they're sending you POs on the review day where you will have time to route it before 4 p.m. the next day. So just be aware of that. Another thing I like to call out is that Walmart actually has what they call a holiday closing template. And that is when you let them know when your offices will be closed. A lot of teams, sometimes don't really take it that seriously because they're like, oh, Walmart doesn't need to know that. But actually the reason why you submit a supplier closing template is so that you let Walmart's systems know that, hey, don't send us an order within this time period because we'll be all gone for Christmas or whatever it is. And Walmart will actually input that information into their ordering system to make sure, number one, that they're not sending you orders when you can't route them or can't pick them, or they can't pick them up. And also number two, that they are essentially kind of, let's just say your whole team's going to be out for the week of Christmas, for example. Then what they're going to do is they're going to order heavier, kind of, 2x what is actually needed the week or 2 weeks prior. So that even though you have 1 week without orders being fulfilled, they will still have enough product to get to the stores. So I would take the supplier closing template very seriously. One thing a lot of suppliers also don't know is Walmart doesn't always email this template to you, shocker. You do have to access it. And I think we have access to the most recent one. And I think they're doing it for Q3 of this year already. So I would really make sure that if you aren't already doing the supplier closing template, it's done on a quarterly basis. Make sure that you are looking for that and also submitting that to Walmart regularly. And so again, I went a little bit on a tangent, but making sure your orders are routed by 4 p.m. And then also obviously making sure that the orders are ready for pickup by the time the Walmart carrier arrives. So, if let's say Walmart schedules a pickup from your facility and your product isn't staged and ready to go, then you will get hit with a collect ready fine for that. So, common causes for, late routing, like what we talked about, a lot of times, the timing requirement is just not known by the teams because, again, Walmart isn't always great about sharing this information. So 4 p.m. CST, the order comes in on a holiday or weekend. And a lot of times too, there's a second routing request. So just so you guys know too, Walmart will actually count your second routing request. If you, let's say, route an order and then you reroute an order later and it's after 4 p.m. CST, they will count that second routing request. One thing you can do, and kind of getting into the weeds here, is making sure that if you do have a second routing request, that you are also submitting a transportation portal ticket along with it to let Walmart know that, hey, I had to reroute this because the truck was full or the truck didn't come on time or whatever it is. That way, when you do try and fight the OTIF fine later on, because you'll get hit with an OTIF fine for this, you have documentation of, hey, we didn't just route it for fun, we routed it for these reasons, and here is the proof that we did so. So in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of speed through the details just because, again, we've covered a lot of it. But essentially just make sure that you are checking with your teams that things are getting routed by 4 p.m. And you can actually check in OTIF the confirmed shipment date and time to make sure that it is following, these particular rules. Again, we talked about when an order comes in on the holiday or weekend. Remember, you can always change the order review days. So if you're seeing this problem come up a lot, really check, are you guys getting your orders on Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays? And that's why you can't route on time. So that's a really easy way to kind of fix the root of this issue. And again, second routing request, you need to try and make sure that if it's because it's kind of out of your control, that you are filling in tickets or letting your buyer know that, hey, we're submitting second rounding requests because of these particular reasons. So the supplier ship point is kind of another big reason why a lot of suppliers, especially if you're collect ready, are getting fines. And that is essentially, again, when the carrier, so Walmart side, was not able to pick up your product at the time of the appointment. So situations happen where the carrier will miss the pickup and a ticket is not submitted, or the facility is not open, or the product is not ready. So for this one, again, kind of zoom through these. But if your carrier misses your pickup, which is more common than a lot of people think, you need to make sure that you are submitting a ticket on the Walmart transportation portal, and you need to do it for every day that the Walmart carrier does not arrive. It can't just be one time and then you kind of, figure it out and hope the carrier shows up. It needs to be for every single day in order for you to kind of have enough documentation to try and fight the OTIF fine. So if you guys aren't implementing this process already, I would make sure that you are doing so. And again, this one, so this is more going to be on Walmart side, but of course it's still on the suppliers to make sure you're submitting reporting. And this is going to be more obviously on the supplier side. So if this facility was not open while Walmart showed up, or if the product wasn't ready, then of course you need to make sure that you are talking to your internal teams on this to make sure that by the time a Walmart carrier arrives, everything is ready to go, and all they have to do is load it into the truck and move on. So for Walmart Canada and Walmart US, we wanted to also kind of share these contacts with you guys. So again, as Melody mentioned earlier, you are going to get access to this presentation later on. So, if you want to take a screenshot, you totally can. If not, you'll have this access to this later on. So supplier enablement is kind of Walmart's general hotline or email, so to speak. And you can ask pretty much any question to this particular team. If you have questions around packaging and labeling for Walmart Canada, this is obviously their email. And then EBS is Enterprise Business Services. That is really more around the finance side. So if you have an invoice question, if you have a deductions related question, you can reach out to EBS and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. Okay, well, that was a lot of content that we covered very fast. I always feel like, here, guys, have all this information, and I hope it's helpful.
No, I think you did a great job. I'm actually not seeing any questions in Q&A. Nothing in the chat.
Okay, awesome.
Actually, I do have one in the chat, which we have covered. Perfect. Okay. So what is the dispute process for Walmart Canada OTIF fill rate charges? My salesperson sent me the following email address from the buyer to dispute these charges, but I never received a response. So I do think we covered a lot of that, but if you wouldn't mind reiterating.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, that is a very good question. So for Walmart Canada, it is an email address. You do have to send them basically, let me back up to this slide here. Okay, so yeah, it is case by case disputing. You would have to submit basically, send an email to that, kind of outlining the fine that you've received and why you think it's invalid. For in full in particular, what I would recommend sending over is, I'm not sure if you're collector prepaid, but obviously if you're collect, your bill of lading. If you're prepaid, it would be your proof of delivery. And then one thing that we've seen kind of work well. So usually your proof of delivery is usually considered, and in bill of lading is usually considered kind of bulletproof documentation, but it is Walmart. So one other piece of documentation that we always recommend including for any in full charges are pulling kind of an inventory receipt report out of DSS, which you'll have access to in Walmart Canada. So you can pull that by PO number. And you can basically say PO number 12345, Walmart Canada, you ordered 100 units, and I can see, and there's a PO receipt column, and you'll see that, oh, okay, they received 100 units. So ordered 100, received 100, you should pay me in full for this particular one. So I would recommend making sure that you have all of that proof documentation and then following up with that email address. And then of course, kind of utilizing your buyer as backup if they aren't able to respond or give you information on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm not seeing anything else. So if that's it, if there's no more questions, we can go ahead and jump into the demo. But thank you and the sneak peek. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. If this is where you jump off, if you're curious on learning more about SupplierWiki, please feel free to stay on. So the follow-up question was making sure that the email address that the person has is correct. It is U.S. CA disputes at walmart.com.
Great question. I don't have that off the top of my head, but let me shoot that over to our deductions team and we can definitely ask for sure. And then if you wouldn't mind, speaker or chatter, sending us an email address just so we make sure that we have your email address, and we can definitely follow up with you on that and get you an answer ASAP.
And if you stay on, if you happen to stay on the webinar, I'm going to shoot this over to the team really quick and try to get that answer before we even drop off. So we'll try to get that to you really quick. Yep. So now we have we have an in-person event. So this is going to be on February 22nd. It's at the Supply Chain Hall of Fame over here in Rogers. It's actually right next to our office. So if you guys come and join, if you're local to Northwest Arkansas, come and join. We can give you a sneak peek of our office, which we just got. We're very excited about. But we're doing a retail link recipes live. So this is going to be with Tim Carey. He is the CEO of Trend Results, which if you guys are not familiar with, it's another great resource for any questions learning about things in the supplier world. So he's going to be going over retailing recipes. So we're really excited to do this in person. We've done this just virtually before, and it's always a very well attended event. We also are doing a live stream. So if you can't make it in person, please feel free to join the live stream. I'll drop a link here in the chat in a second.
Awesome.
Excellent. And then that is our information. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Those are our emails. Love to talk to you guys some more, or you can find us at SupplierWiki.com. So feel free to join us there.
Awesome. Well, like Melody said, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Again, I know it's a lot of information, and I really, again, appreciate all of the chat that we've had today. All of your insights and information just help to continue to make SupplierWiki a better place. And again, we'll make sure that we update all of the information that we have, articles and resources, and even this particular deck with the information that we learned today, just so we can share it with the greater supplier community. So with that, like Melody mentioned, if you guys have to hop off, we thank you for spending the hour with us. And if not, then we are going to take a quick sneak peek into Deductions Navigator, which again is our kind of take on being able to, let me see if I can't, there we go, exit out of this presentation. So yeah, so this is Deductions Navigator. As I kind of mentioned at the top of the call, SupplierWiki is a software company. So this is kind of the tool that we have created to help our suppliers kind of tackle deductions at Walmart. And again, we also have this for Target, Kroger, and Amazon. So this is going to be a super high level presentation. But you guys can see here, obviously, we have a dashboard page. So how Deductions Navigator works is we are automatically integrated with retailer portals. So with Walmart, it'll be Retail Link, with Target Partners Online, so on and so forth. And with that, we're able to pull information back for you automatically on the deductions that you have received. So for example, we can show you how much you've received over time, what is still kind of that money on the table metric that you've not gone after and tried to fight for yet, what is awaiting repayment, what has been paid, and also what your win rate is. So if you guys are familiar with these portals, this is kind of basic information, but it's almost impossible to get to on your own in Retail Link. And so we're automatically pulling this information back for you. So other cool things about Deductions Navigator is we also show you kind of strategic level information. So yeah, it's good to know what's out there and it's good to know how much you have to go fight, but we think there's a lot of power as well in being able to understand the root cause of the deductions that you're receiving. So as an example, of course, this is just a demo account, but you can see that we're able to say, hey guys, out of the $440,000 of deductions that you've received, you can see a vast majority of them are coming from shortage related deductions. So that in itself is kind of the impetus for you to have a discussion maybe with your transportation team to go, hey guys, how are we shipping these? Or even with your finance team to go, hey guys, are we invoicing these correctly or at the right cadence? And again, getting your money is kind of a really, really big pillar of what we do. But again, understanding the root cause to say, okay, great, let's get the money back, but let's also try and reduce this from happening in the future. So other cool things that we show you are deductions by amount. So we know a lot of teams, for example, have certain dollar thresholds where they'll say, hey, anything under X dollars, it's just not worth our time to go after. And we'll kind of show you what that impact is if you're writing this off, this is what is actually happening and how it's actually impacting your business. We'll show you deductions by item number. So again, you can very quickly, hey, this item is getting a disproportionately high number of deductions. Hey, let's go talk to the right team to figure out why that is, and even deductions by location. So is there a particular DC or store that for whatever reason just can't receive your product correctly? And we'll make sure that we call that out so you can work with either that DC directly or even with the buying team to try and figure out how to make that better. So this is the deductions page, is kind of the meat and potatoes of the app, so to speak. So again, dashboard is dashboardy things, but the deductions page is really where it starts to get interesting. So we have, for this particular example is Walmart, but again, we can pull back for Target, Kroger, and Amazon, but for Walmart, we can pull up to 2 years of historical deductions. And we pull and store that for you indefinitely too. So we've got folks that have been with us for 4 or 5 years, and they have 4 or 5 years worth of deductions data, which is really, really powerful when you're trying to analyze trends, but also when you're trying to fight post audits. So you're not having to kind of rifle back through old inboxes and try and pull POs that are 3 years old. Like, it's automatically here ready for you to go. So essentially kind of what the process looks like for our suppliers that utilize Deductions Navigator, rather than you having to, if you're doing it manually today, you're having to go into APIS, find the deduction, go into APDP, then find another deduction, kind of input all of the information, look for the proof documentation, download it, save it on your computer, upload it to APDP, submit it, track it, and you're having to do that for, every single claim that you receive from Walmart. So beauty of software is all of that is automatically pulled in together for you. So you can see here, we've got claim information, order information, down to who your carrier is, your shipping method, vendor number, check lines, the history, so on and so forth. And I think kind of the most powerful part of Deductions Navigator is we're also automatically pulling all of this proof documentation for you. So rather than you having to go in and do validity checks and then go to whichever portal you need to download those documents, it's here waiting for you. So we have integrations with about 100 different carriers and 3PLs, and we will do the automatic matching for you. So again, you find this particular claim or PO, we'll find it for you, and it will just be waiting for you and ready to dispute. So pretty much all you have to do, some teams like to just have their eyes on it and, hey, everything looks good. All they have to do is literally click submit dispute, and it will automatically ship off to, in this case, APDP on your behalf, and you're done. So you are also able to do kind of the one-click disputing if you want to. We also give you the ability to bulk dispute. So again, demo account, you can do up to 100 deductions at a time. We even have the ability to do auto disputing. So we have teams that will say, hey, anything under $500 auto dispute, I don't even want to look at it. Just make sure it has the documentation, send it off for me. Anything over $500, hey, I want to have my eyes on. So you can basically turn on and turn off and kind of set criteria, set dollar thresholds to automate the entire process for you. So we've had folks that can clear essentially 2-year backlogs within a month of working with us. And then essentially they can then take their AR teams who are so experienced and so knowledgeable, instead of just sitting there typing things into APDP, they can really be utilized kind of to their maximum potential, being more strategic, root causing, and doing that kind of stuff. So really powerful. Hopefully it sounds interesting to you guys. I think that's kind of all I've got, unless you guys have any other questions.
I'm not seeing any other. Oh, wait, no, there's a question.
Sweet.
When does the signed POD get uploaded? Is that by us or is that by us for SupplyPike?
Great question. So we have those kind of close to 100 integrations that I mentioned. And so that actually automatically gets updated for you. So I'll just use a super easy example. Let's just say you ship through FedEx, right? So we have an integration with FedEx. All you'd have to do is kind of grant us permission to be able to, download those files for you. And I say us, I really mean the program. So there's not really a human being logging in or anything like that. We'll just automatically, go into FedEx, look for, again, let's say PO 2786. If it's in FedEx's portal, we'll find it, download it, attach it for you, and it'll be ready to go. So we basically, I think usually kind of, obviously when we do the backfill process, that takes a little bit of time in the beginning, but if I'm not mistaken, once we have an integration live and up and running, we usually are able to match and attach documents within 24 hours automatically. So you don't have to lift a finger. Literally, truly, when you click in, it will just be there waiting for you. So that's pretty cool. So kind of last thing I'll share is that we do have a free impact analysis that we can share with you guys, where you can actually pull your data into the application. Obviously, the demo data doesn't really mean anything per se, but we find for our teams, it's really, really powerful when we can pull your data into the app and call things out to you. And that's free. We even allow you to do 10 disputes for free. So we have had people win back a lot of money before they even paid us a single cent, which is really, really cool. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, we'd love to have that discussion. And of course, Melody and I and the whole SupplyPike team are here if you've got any other questions or feedback.
Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully this was helpful for you. And thank you for all the engagement. We always love it whenever you guys engage with us. Like Stacey said, if you're interested in doing a demo with your data, we would love to help you with that. But that's it. That's all we got. So you'll see the recording, the slide deck here soon. And thank you everyone again. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks guys. Bye.